Without further ado, please help me welcome to the stage. He's the Vice President of Global Product Development and Global Design Strategies. A big round of applause, Mr. Karim Kalifa.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for coming back from the beautiful sunshine out there. So I know Bob was asking about the engineers trusting the project managers, that they complete everything in fire and life safety. So can all the IT people here stand up? Dean, I got my eye on you. Okay. So I'd like to ask, how many of you trust the project managers for fire and life safety? You're all sitting. All right, sit down, sit down. You guys are a tough crowd. You guys are a really tough crowd. So I need to make a confession here. I'm actually a mechanical engineer. And I actually started my career with a company called Bechtel in nuclear power. And you know what happens when they find out that you're a bad engineer? You become a project manager. And so that's what happened to me. So I ended up in project management. I do manage a group for global design strategies. So what does that mean? I have the cost estimating team is in my group. The design engineering team, who I think you know Terry Smith, he's in my group, leading that group. I have product designers, so they are interior designers, architects, and some project managers. And then I have somebody helps me communicate because I can't communicate by myself. So with that, we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing in our area, what innovation's all about, and how you can think about releasing it in your own hotels. You guys actually innovate all the time. Your resources are strapped, and you're always thinking of new ways to get things done. You're tapping everything you got. And one of the reasons we're there is because we were founded by innovators. So I still marvel that this couple drives across the country from Utah in an old Ford in 12 days, by the way. That seems like an amazing trip for me. To go open a restaurant because they thought there was a customer out there that they could serve better in Washington, D.C. than was being served. If you talk about a foundation of innovation, it is this couple here trying to figure this out. So we all have this in us. I worried that for a while our innovation was how to make that happen across the country in a very, very uniform way, and into Canada and overseas and everywhere. And the new customer is saying, the new millennial is saying, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm actually looking for a unique experience. So that whole world of consistency, maybe we hung into a little bit too long. They expect consistency. They expect, and you guys do an awesome job with it, supplying them the basics every day. What they really want is they want an experience, a unique experience wherever they go. And just like Mr. and Mrs. Marriott coming over to innovate, we now know they were innovating for that guest, that customer at that time. And now we need to refocus who that guest or customer is. And that's that millennial generation. That's what this is all about. That's the big shift. So we have 4,000 hotels, 70 countries. So we need some strategies on how to go after them. And we got to think differently because the guests are not uniform. We talk about millennials as if there's one millennial. Right? This is a world of millennials. The biggest worldwide traveler today is Chinese. That Chinese is the biggest outbound traveler from China, right? They are the biggest outbound traveler of their own country. And that group is millennial. So when we think they're going to show all up in our hotels, and there's a whole new expectation we got to deliver on. So we got to think differently. We really got to shake it up. How are we going to deliver it? How are we going to make ourselves relevant? How are they going to experience us? So in December, we had a meeting, some of the executives, to talk about what are the real high innovation drivers. So we have drive strategic prioritization, right? So this, to me, is focus. Evolve our business model, keep studying, keep driving through the results, balance our brands and growth, meaning how do we grow with so many brands and how do we balance where we are in markets. But then I highlight the 3 here up in red, because I think those are places that are huge opportunities for innovation. Beat the disruptors. Who are disruptors, right? Airbnb, boutique hotels showing up on the corner. How do we beat them? We have a great customer base. They shouldn't be able to take advantage of that. We should be able to take advantage of our customer base. They shouldn't be able to steal those customers. Empowering talent. People have lots of information today because of those devices and the internet. How do we empower them to give us ideas of what they think about all that information? And then winning with that next generation, and that's where I started with. That's our new customer. So that's what's been, these are the places when you think about driving innovation, these are places that we can make big moves. Autograph was a big move on beating the disruptor, right? It incorporated independently branded hotels into a collection and leveraged a whole growth that we didn't even know was a potential, right? 100 hotels in just a few years. So here's a little video about what Arnie says about this.
We're building on a tradition of innovation. We're moving faster than we've ever moved before. To innovate really simply means, all right, I'm going to look at what I'm going to do and I'm going to figure out what are the ideas I can use. Fundamentally, it's a spirit about change. It is about empowering people, about collaboration. We will be less effective if everybody's waiting for their boss. Much more effective if each of us individually say, how do I get better in my space? The sense that I get from traveling across the company, whether it be in department by department, in our headquarters building, or in our regional offices, or in our hotels, folks are feeling like they've got the permission to come out and say, I've got this idea and I want to test it. And they should feel empowered to test it. It should not require me or necessarily even their boss to greenlight. We are innovating with a purpose. We're pursuing it in order to get more hotels, to make our hotels perform better, to make our guests of our hotel to say, I loved staying at Marriott last night, and there's something about that stay that I'm excited about, I want to share with other travelers. The message I would still give to folks is, you're permitted, you're encouraged, stick your neck out, try that idea. If it works, let's make sure we elevate it and think about whether we can get it more resources. If it doesn't work, let's put it aside and go on and do the next thing. Obviously, there is an expertise about innovation, but it's not something which is owned only by somebody who has innovation on their business card. It has to be owned by all of us.
So I think it's clear, right? He's saying it's not the people that say they're the innovators, right? The people with the title. It's really all of us. Everybody in this room has a shot at this, and everybody that works for us can be stimulated to work in this direction. I think you were talking about the 3 C's before, and it's really the courage to ask questions, right? To really the courage to change. And that C is all about this. It's saying, I don't know, I need to learn. I need to ask why we're doing things the way we did them before and see if we can't do them more differently. So I woke up one morning and saw that Marriott was the number 18th most innovative company. Huh? If this wasn't a battle cry, I pulled my whole group together that morning and I said, what the heck are we going to do about that? This is a perception. We're honored to have this perception. But I don't know about you, but I didn't think of us being number 18. I wouldn't say we're number 1,000 either, But this was people's perception changing about the company. And I told my group, we better double down and grow into these shoes. These are big shoes to grow into. And that's a battle cry to all of you as well. This is an awesome place to say we are. But I have to say, I get a little anxiety when I think we're supposed to deliver on this, and can we really do it? So this is a great battle cry. This is why you need to ask, and the C is for change, and you have to ask questions. So innovation. I'm going to talk to you a little about innovation, a little bit what my group's been doing to help you show where we push the boundaries. And maybe they'll give you a little bit of inspiration how you can push your boundaries, and some of these items are very relevant to what you do in your hotels today. So the underground. This is just a basement. How many people here have been to the underground? Can we show by hands? Great, so you got into the lowest part of the building, a big white basement, right? That's what that space is. It's nothing but a white canvas. It's what we put into it that's actually interesting. It's the fact that the company thinks a white canvas is important, that we can put our thoughts somewhere and we can work across disciplines and do something different. So this is what the press has been saying about us. Somebody in PR said, actually, for the amount of money that we spent to build the underground, we were probably the most productive ad campaign the company ever had in its history because we had millions and millions of hits on this space. And we spent a few $100,000 to pull it together. But this is probably one of the attributes that they looked at as being one of the most innovative companies because of that. So a little bit about what's down or what's happened in the underground, just to kind of give you some ideas. If you start at the top left, you see some people rapid prototyping. We have materials down there on carts so people can do this whenever they want. This is not plan time. They could plan it if they want. But if they have an idea and they want to do something, they go down and do it on their own. Just below that, there's something on flooring I'll speak to. Below that, you see the bathrooms. I think in Ray's presentation, he also mentioned. In the middle there is actually the AC bar. We invited 60 owners to come in to get feedback from them. Do you remember when we used to build out hotels and then we'd look for feedback and then we decide we want to go forward? Well, that cycle takes too long. So we build this out of foam. We actually put real kitchen equipment into it and real bar equipment. The owners came down in the morning. We served them breakfast, an AC breakfast. They went and had their meetings. They came back for cocktail hour. And yes, Ray was right. It was pretty astonishing. We really served cocktails down the underground. Some of them we couldn't get out. They were going to hang out for a little bit longer. But what did we get there? We got feedback. We got buy-in from the owners that this is the type of hotel we're really going to launch when we build something. And that's what we're leveraging out. And that's about speed to market, right? We can build it out in foam core, we can morph on it, and we can get it launched with our feedback from our owners, operations, designers, and that's what that's about. On the right-hand side, you see a wall of photographs. Renaissance wanted to get feedback of where we thought Renaissance should go in the future. So here's just a kind of a public campaign of people's ideas and imagery of where they think Renaissance should go. In the bottom right is Moxie. So before we built our Moxie in Milan, we also built that out of foam core. So we had chefs there. We had our partners from IKEA, which is the guys who developed the guest room for Moxie. We had operations people in there, and we all worked together to refine that food and beverage outlet. And we refined it in foam. It was really producing food. We installed real equipment inside the foam. Simultaneously, we had a full wall projection of that floor plan. And as we modified the foam, we modified the drawing. In 3.5 days, we completed the design across 25 people and all the disciplines we could think of to interact with this. So that was 3.5 days. A lot of people walked to say it would take us 6 months to get through sending plans back and forth and having commentary. But it all went live. You know, we went out for dinner every night, and of course, we continued to think and morph on all of our ideas. So that's a part of our innovative plan, is to really get speed to market. Here you see a look at flooring. We often review flooring with people and for a special space. And here we want to take the spaces away and just say, check out what's coming in flooring. So this is an investigation around flooring that we've never actually used in any of our hotels. You actually see Mr. Marriott and Arnie Sorensen in that picture, so we actually take them down there so they can explore it with us. That way, when it pops up in a design and it's pushing our thinking, they understand why we've developed it and what the characteristics of that are. This was the bathroom competition. I guess Ray was going to nickname me the shower guy. We did ask our competitors to go ahead and build bathrooms out in the underground. It was fascinating to actually see our competitors to build their best stuff next to each other. I think it was just a bluff. I wasn't sure they were going to do it, but they went ahead and did it. So we had Kohler and Grohe and Hans Grohe and Porcelanosa and all these guys to help us figure out how to address that 5x7 bathroom from our oldest Marriott hotels. And that's part of what that initiative was all about. I want to take a parenthesis here because we got some data back on Marriott hotels and how they're performing when they have the new guest room. And I think everyone's heard this. There's some pushback, hey, I need more work surface or a different desk or something like that. But when you really look at it, I'm going to look at my data here to make sure I get it right. But if you really look at it, this guest room's scoring 15 to 20 points higher than the previous guest room in our voice, our guest voice. We don't have a good benchmark because the survey has changed. But we are able now to drill into hotels and look at rooms that haven't been renovated versus those that have been renovated inside the same hotel because guest voice is by guest room number. And we're going to see what that performance looks like. We think this is probably one of our strongest performing renovations or innovations that we've ever had in the guest room. The bath experience went up 25 points. The overall design and decor went up 20 points. So we think we have some very strong design features here. Did we make some mistakes by going out quickly with a very different design? Sure we did. Sure we did. Can we recover from them? We totally believe we can recover from them. So we know some people saying, I need workspace. Some of especially our boomers, when we drilled into the guest voice, the boomers are the ones saying, hey, I'm not comfortable anymore. Well, you know what? We kind of knew that going into it because our focus was going to start shifting to the millennials. Do we want to alienate people? No. But this is a big shift. It's about what we do now to capture that new generation, that new customer. This is a little bit on fitness. We mocked this up in digital. We're actually going to build a new fitness room out in headquarters so we can test out the equipment and layouts and new functionality in there so we can get it rolled out to you guys. The Awards of Excellence is going on right now in headquarters. And so somebody stole these photos. We invited all of our Awards of Excellence people to go down the underground and build out of foam block. And yes, they got to play with Lego. We have giant Lego. So anytime you'd like to show up and play with our 500 giant Lego, please do. But really, the invitation's for all of you. If you ever come into headquarters, I'd be happy to show you down there. I want you to be part of it. You're a very important part of how we get everything done on the properties, and this is part of it. So I thought that was kind of cool. Somebody shot this for me yesterday. Down in the underground, we took a look at HVAC. We actually built these 5 systems out on kind of rolling carts. We encased them in mostly plexiglass so people could see inside. Why would we do all of this work? You guys already know all these pieces of equipment. It's because the people who support the decision-making don't understand this. So although you guys have it in your minds how this works, this outline we presented all the way from Mr. Marriott to the asset managers, who you guys probably know are managing our relationships with our owners in those contracts, so they could better support the type of innovation and work that you want to push on property. It was an education piece. Developers are down there. So you can see we gave them a kind of a simple code. I know you guys could drill down into this, and we could drill into lots and lots of detail. But we talked about the cost, the energy efficiency, the guest impact, how it controls humidity, just not cooling, and really gave them a great education. I almost couldn't get the executives out when we did this presentation. They spent about 40 minutes just focusing on this. It was very important. So as you try to innovate, one of the messages that I have to you, you also have to educate. People have to understand your message and what you're planning on. So no, you don't have to read this chart. So how many of you work on your CapEx plans for your properties? Show of hands. Yeah. How many of you see the cost calculator? Has anyone sees that cost calculator go out? Great. And in the last couple of years, we started changing the cost calculator. And one of the things that we thought of is, how do we release you guys to really input specific characteristics about how you're going to contract that work? So taxes, freight, what the fee markups are, how much you're going to pay your consultants, what region you really are in, so don't give you averages, really give you a place to adjust for things, for local conditions, and even premiums to throw out there on a hot market. So that was part of this. This was my team coming to me saying, hey, can we just tear all this apart and actually let them play with it? It does come with defaults, right? It all defaults to some system, but you guys can modify it as you wish. And so you can really be much more practical to your CapEx planning and have more specific numbers. So that's what this was all about, trying to get you a tool because you're on the front line of this. Open innovation. So there's two great examples of how we do open innovation. One is with a company called Javoto. Javoto's 6,000 designers. They're up on a website. You actually pose them a challenge, and we gave them about $5,000 of award money across 5,000 for 3 awards, first, second, and third place. People love to be challenged in this space. Designers use their spare time to flex their muscles and show who they are, that they could win something like this. We had 64 submittals that designed the artwork program for a Fairfield Inn. We gave them a model, totally whited it out. They didn't know it was a Fairfield Inn. They said, Marriott wants a new interactive art program, and you get 6,000 people participating in that within a couple of days to solve the problem for you. So that was one way we got it. You see this image here. This was just one concept that you actually put some sort of a screening on the windows, and the artwork would be projected by the sunlight. So people come up with ideas that we never would have really come up with inside. The other one was about Travel Brilliantly. I don't know if some of you saw this, but this woman came up with an idea of having a healthy snack inside a vending machine. She then was able to create that with our chefs and then launch that to market, right? And they tested it in a few hotels about eating healthy on the road when you don't have time to stop and buy something. So these are like open formats and where to get these ideas. So really it's about building our capabilities, and this is the overall message I believe Arnie's really pushing us towards. And so you see 4 different areas here. We've engaged with academia, so we've gone to like RISD, we've gone to Massachusetts, MIT, and we try to give those classes in the universities challenges to solve. Seating in our hotels was one of the ones we did. Mobile desks was another one we did, and really get fresh new ideas and get that participation going. We have our associates. We do a lot of training with associates in headquarters and try to get them to loosen up and think outside their boundaries. A lot of that takes place in the underground. We have night classes now, a couple times a month in the underground, about subjects that aren't even focused on Marriott, where people just want to learn something new, and we use a lot of the people in our office to teach those classes. So think of how you can take that into your environment, about teaching and learning from each other, specific skills and expertise that are outside of your functional area. Thought leaders, we have Google in the office. I think I mentioned Javoto there. These are companies that are coming in all the time. Google must be in there at least once a week. And these are people that we are also doing presentations to different groups to keep our minds flexible. And then finally, designers. So, we used to have big designers like WATG and all these famous big guys. They're still great. But there's so many boutique designers out there now who are developing those boutique hotels that we're bringing them in also. We had Kraus and Sawyer do work for us on Marriott guest rooms. They're really a team of 4 people. They work in a virtual hub with 26 other designers to create their full team. This is the way people get stuff done, right? They're all working remotely and collaborating and to push the fringe here. They come up with very fresh ideas and very challenging ways for us to think about design, but that's where we need to move, into that open collaborative environment. We bring in speakers who are innovators. I think you know some of these. Kip Tyndall's from the Container Store. Dan Rome takes his notes. He never takes notes by writing words. He takes notes by drawing pictures. He's the best doodler I ever saw in my life. And Jose Andreas, I think we've heard of. He's just a chef innovator. Right now he's teaching a class in cryogenic cooking at Harvard. You know, super cooling foods to create new dishes. So these people come in. These are what we talk about as parallel industries. Can we get inspiration and ideas outside of what we do day to day? This is the ALICE conference that we have. This is the American Lodging Investment Summit. I think most of you may have heard of it. It takes place in LA in January. We unveiled Moxy Hotels. So I want to show you a little bit how this looked. We took the space of the Nokia Plaza, and the Nokia Plaza sits between the Staples Center and the Nokia Theater, right adjacent to our JW and Ritz-Carlton hotels. So there's a little video here to show you how that all came together. Here's some images from that, and here's the video.
I say trick or treat. They say I gotta keep it sweet. But I'ma do my thing. You got a problem, you can kiss this ring. Now you act like you got some class. Well, do you know how to back that ass up? Watch me drop the hurt. Make money, money, make money, money, work. Make money, money, make money, money, work. Make money, work. All eyes on me. Eyes on me. All eyes on me. I'ma give you what you need. I'ma give you what you need. All eyes on me. Eyes on me. All eyes on me. I'ma give you what you need. 'Cause if you like your rock, you love it when I give it to you raw.
Can you say it's not your father's Marriott? Something totally different here that we're launching. We took that Moxy launch from Europe and brought it to the US. In the US, we have about 30 projects already signed up. This is a very quick launch. This is a very small guest room, right? It's about 185 square feet. 185 square feet. Marriott's at about 310 square feet. Just to kind of give you an idea, it's all about the public space. These are Swiss Army knife bedrooms. All the pieces, I'm sorry. I think I got it. All the furniture is actually hung up on the wall. There's a desk up there, there's a chair up there, there's a luggage rack, there's some extra pegs for you to hang your clothes. So we got everything up off the floor. You basically have the bed, a small chair, and a couple of nightstands. This brand is really a challenger to some brands that are trying to take that boutique space out there. You may have heard of Citizen M, Ace Hotels, Yotel, and there's others coming into that market, and we should earn some of this space. This is a big change for us. But this is an important change for us, because the millennials that are going to be here are going to be in our Marriott hotels in the future, right? We've seen car companies do this as well, right? You bring in entry-level places where people get an affinity for your brand, and you continue to let them grow with you as a brand company. And this is exactly what's going on here. Some of our hotels, these are going to be very urban. There'll be a couple of new builds. A lot of them are going into adaptive reuse, meaning existing shells. Some of them will be conversions. But it's all about the public space here. So this is really something very, very different for us. We built this into a container. We used a company in Texas to build it We wanted to do it so we could show it, we could put it on the road. So that's what this is about. We also built our bar inside of a container, and the sides open up and have all this functionality. It was really great for Moxie, but that bar, I don't know if you heard about that project called Canvas, but it was about trying to get new F&B talent and ideas into our hotels around the world, and we have a couple of pilots out there. But that project Canvas is going to use that bar in a container and then put it into communities and have bartender competitions and food and beverage competitions. But this idea of getting into containers is very, it's all about the world of hackable today. People think this is cool. I don't know why. It's authentic. It's an old container to me, but people love this stuff. It is fun. I mean, these things are structural. So we said, what else could we do with it? Can we push this harder? And really start thinking about what this trend's all about around the world. So we actually are launched into a modular construction evaluation right now. So we invited 7 firms into Marriott and interviewed them of their capabilities to build our buildings using modular construction. It may not be really containers. This is actually, on the screen, is a bathroom that a company called Egg Rock, they're owned by Old Castle, is delivering. If you look at, we have about 25 hotels out there using this modular systems. Of course, they can hold their tolerances very tightly in a factory that we can't do in the field. The other thing is, in a construction boom like we are today, we can't get the right talent to do this work in the field. And you guys, I'm sure, are fighting that in your renovations, right? So this is part of what we're doing. We have, they will end up building guest rooms out for us. So we think probably 3 to 5 of these firms will make the grade. And we will start introducing them to our owners to build our entire hotels in a modular fashion. This is part of what we think of when we started getting into out of our skin and how can we do things differently. The US is actually a little bit behind here. A lot of places in the world, especially Europe, is doing quite a bit of work in this space. So I wanted to move into something else that you do interact, or some of you interact with, and that is work around the digital asset platform. We have design standards, and I think some of you probably wrestle with what's in them sometimes. We get feedback, and we just haven't been able to customize them to the level we want to. So we ended up launching something that wanted to take us from that paper books into a true digital environment. And I don't mean taking the paper and putting it in a PDF, right? We got to do something a lot better than that. I mean, look how Amazon search engines work. That was one of our goals. How can we make things feel like everything else that we like to do out there on the web today and make information really accessible and tailored to what we need? So we had 3 things we went after. Clarity. Let's be very clear when something's a standard or when something's a best practice. And let's fight for the standards and justify and look at the ROI on our best practices. Let's be end-user centric. So if we're giving these to owners to build the right building, let's make sure we tee it up in a way that's really useful to them. And then let's make sure that it's something that has a lot of agility, that it can be transported into any iPhone or iPad or computer or any environment so people can access it. So here's a little video that's going to tee this up, and then I'll come back to talking about the specifics. So we teed this up for our owners and franchisees last time in December to try to get input from them and what they thought this digital environment should be so they would build better hotels for all of us, right? So we would be operating better buildings. So how do we serve this up a lot better so we get really the most out of it? Right now, everyone's swimming through a lot of information that may not be pertinent to their hotels. So how do we get that more accurate? So it's the content that we're reorganizing totally and how the document's organized. And then portfolio view for all of their hotels. So instead of going in and trying to surf which design standards pertinent to their hotels, we give them a portfolio view where they can mine information directly. Give them a project dashboard where their project is in its cycle. We're looking at renovations, which would be very interesting to you, and you'll be able to see that on your properties as well. And then this project-specific guideline. So that's a little bit about, if I don't have a swimming pool in my hotel, then why are you sending me a swimming pool standard? If I don't have escalators, why do I get escalator standard? So it's about really making it digitally active. You know the attributes you have in Amazon, you click the attributes and it automatically sifts the information to give you what you're trying to look for. That's the way this functions for them. So they can be very accurate in what they get. So we all do all this tagging and filtering, and this is the space we're in right now. We just launched Marriott Hotels Design Standards as a pilot. All of my guys around the world in global design are playing with that pilot right now, getting us feedback to see how it works. But we tag the information by brand, by continent and country. Is it a standard? Is it a best practice? Is this a managed hotel or a franchised hotel? We give them expanded information if they want to learn more. We give them all the references of what codes or what standards are out there that they can pull through to make this work. And project-specific spaces, which I just mentioned. So for instance, for the Delta folks in the room, we always pushed out a US standard. So now we're going to embrace those Canadian standards, and they can really work through the Canadian standards and what that's requiring versus always looking at the US standard and trying to figure out how to make that work for them. And we're doing that around the world. So we have standards now for fire and life safety that we have published for 24 different countries. So we've gone in and reviewed fire and life safety standards in each country and correlated about what are our objectives for safety of our guests, our associates in the buildings. So they become very, very specific. This is a total transformation of where we are. So I think somebody mentioned here module 15 before. That has a lot of the engineering systems that you guys deal with day to day. Module 14 is fire and life safety. Those standards are getting totally revamped. The other thing that we're really excited about, it gives us an opportunity to get feedback from the field that can be specific to a region, and then we can collect that and update the standards so it's much more specific. So we took a look at it just to give you an idea of how it plays out. We took module 12, that's elevators, right? And in there, we tagged stuff and looked at what does it mean to be a full-service, high-rise managed hotel. And it really took us from the 18 pages down to 11 of standards. 4 of them of those pages were best practices, and about 3 of them we ended up deleting because we started leveraging local codes to really stand up for us, right? And if I go to a C-first low-rise franchised hotel, I only have 9 pages of standards, 2 are best practices, and 7 of them I don't need to show at all. And the intent here is, instead of the owner asking us where to get the information is, let's have better conversations of how to execute that design. That's the big move here. So this is the new portal that they start to experience in a very nice and aesthetically pleasing and familiar digital way to interface with us. They log in. Here's just an example on the fitness center. I just wanted to highlight how this looks. So they actually pick their region, they pick their country, their location. And when they go inside, they actually see best practices totally separately from reference materials or standards. So they can get expanded information. So I don't know if any website you go on today lets you expand information and learn more. So that's available to them. They get design criteria information as a reference. And I'm going to click through this here. So the delivery right now in 14 was really to organize a lot of the information. 15, we're now in pilot. We will launch the tool by December of this year. And we will probably have Marriott, Fairfield, Renaissance, Delta, all done by the end of the year. We hope to get some more, but we definitely want to see how the pilot comes through to see how far we can get. In 16, it's to do them all. It'll all be done. So we have 19 brands today that we need to pull through. And it also is interactive with the drawing sets for our prototype brands. So Moxie that has drawings associated with it, you can navigate between standards and drawings in a digital environment. So I've talked a lot about innovation and things that we're trying to do. A lot of them are very connected to the way you pull through all this on your properties all the time. But I just wanted to kind of sit back and take a look at the diversity of awesome impacts that we're starting to have as a company on our hotels. So I'm going to flash through a few of these right here to take a look at. St. Pancras in London. This is a totally listed space, and you cannot attach to any walls here. So you see, everything you see here is freestanding. Cusco is a historically preserved city, so you can see the amounts that were preserved to create the JW. Beautiful execution on the Marriott Hotel. I think somebody's here from, I think I met somebody here from Portland today, who's the engineer. This is the Berners Tavern inside of the Edition London. This is now the #1 restaurant in the UK. It's the #1 restaurant in the UK. It's an amazing feat. So we talk about this stuff all the time, and we talk about pushing innovation and new ideas. And I have to tell you, as like you are managers of teams, you know, what's that measurement that one day you wake up and you say, hey, I think it's getting some traction. And this was my day, so I thought I'd share it with you because I thought it was an interesting way to look at it. I got a note one morning that said, hey, do you know the TSA, talking about TSA for airports, has a design challenge on a website to redesign that experience. And aren't we supposed to be the favorite travel company? Isn't that our mission? So shouldn't we be designing airports? I was like, what? You guys don't have enough work to do? I must be doing something wrong. I thought you guys are jammed. You were just complaining and crying to me the other day. You guys ever hear this story, right? People are asking to do new things, but they can't even, they're struggling with what we already gave them. So, you know, the first impression when you see this is to kind of say, wait a minute, hold on, guys, we can't do that. We got all of these priorities in our world. And then you got to sit back and think for a moment, oh my gosh, what are they really telling me here? They are so engaged and so invigorated by this mission that they're going to spend extra time and effort when they're already busy to do something that they think is important and relevant. So this is a volunteer organization. I had a stand-up meeting. We talked about it. Rules of the road. You can use all the assets inside this office. You can use the printers, the computers, but you're going to use your spare time. You use lunch times, before work, after work, weekends, whatever. We got to hold on to our objectives. We had 10 days. We were 4 days late. It was a 14-day competition. We started on day with 10 days left. These guys worked night and day. And it was complicated. There's queuing theory in here. People had to pull out their calculus books and redo the calculations on queuing theory to see if we had improved the timing to go through the lines of the airport program. We created 3D design models. We submitted entire descriptions of what was going on, all in 10 days. People came in on the weekend. And what I'm trying to tell you is that's what you're looking for, right? When people are so engaged, they're willing to go the extra mile. And it doesn't have to be like this. This was such an easy one for me to pick up on. But this is what we want. We want people to get engaged about innovation and thinking differently and improving the way we portray ourselves as a hotel company. You guys have amazing teams out there, and if you release all of that energy and innovation and intelligence and knowledge, you're going to solve all kinds of new things for us as a company. I really thank you very much for being on the front line for all of us. You guys do amazing work. As an engineer who's a bad engineer, I really admire you even more. And so my calling to you is, so what in your day, in your hotel, do you observe that you want to reinvent? Thank you very much.